The narrative opens with our protagonist, a young woman named Tong Zio, addressing the audience directly with a provocative and seemingly impossible question. She gazes into the camera and poses, "If I were to tell you that luck can be exchanged, would you believe it?" She immediately acknowledges the skepticism such a claim would generate, answering for the viewer, "No, right." Yet with a sense of awe and bewilderment, she insists that this very phenomenon has become the defining paradox of her life, intricately linking her destiny to that of her boss. Tong Zio is introduced as a person perpetually dogged by misfortune. Wherever she goes, a cascade of minor and major calamities seems to follow, making even the simplest daily tasks a formidable challenge. The male lead Luing is her polar opposite. A renowned fashion icon, he moves through life with an aura of infallible success. His every venture is blessed with prosperity, and his Midas touch is the stuff of legend in the industry. Tong Zio's professional aspiration is to transition into the designer department of her company. Her boss, the very person who holds the key to her dream, is none other than the illustrious Luing himself. Her journey to petition him begins with a series of comical misfortunes that perfectly illustrate her cursed existence. She attempts to board a bus, only for it to become impossibly crowded just as she arrives, leaving her stranded. She then manages to get into a taxi, but the vehicle abruptly breaks down, forcing her to continue on foot. Upon reaching the office building, she makes a desperate dash for the elevator to intercept Luing, but the doors refuse to close due to her presence, and the impatient occupants inside unceremoniously push her back out. Undeterred, she finally corners Luing just as he is entering a different elevator. Heart pounding with a mixture of fear and determination, she slips in beside him. Her goal is to present him with a file containing her original design, hoping to convince him of her talent. Luing, accustomed to people seeking his endorsement, mistakes her for an employee needing a routine signature. Without even glancing at the contents, he swiftly signs the document. At that precise moment, the elevator jolts violently. Terrified of heights, Tong Zio instinctively grabs onto Luing for stability. In this fleeting, chaotic contact, an inexplicable metaphysical transaction occurs. Half of Luing's prodigious luck is transferred to Tong Zio. Annoyed by her proximity, Luing pushes her away and exits the elevator. Later, as he approaches his car, he finds Wen, a model from his agency, already inside. Wen, whose personal dream is to marry Luing, attempts to make conversation during the ride, but he offers only cold, non-committal responses. Back at the office, a frustrated Tong Zio confronts her manager, reminding him of his long-standing promise to advocate for her transfer to the designer department. The manager, adept at deflection, dismissively claims he tried but received no response, advising her to simply work harder. Tong Zio's patience wears thin as she reveals she's been hearing the same excuse for 3 years, declaring that if her dream remains unfulfilled, there is no point in her continuing at the company. Seeing her resolve, the manager presents her with an ultimatum disguised as an opportunity. If she can secure Luing's personal signature on a specific file, the transfer will be approved. Recalling the signature she obtained in the elevator, Tong Zio devises a risky plan. She forges the document by copying and pasting Luing's signature onto the required file and submits it to HR. The HR department, none the wiser, processes the request and officially transfers her to the designer department. Her first day in the new department is a rude awakening. She finds Manager Dolly in a state of high stress, and all the staff members bear the visible marks of exhaustion with prominent dark circles under their eyes. When Tong Zio inquires about this, a colleague explains that the designer department is notorious for its relentless workload and sleepless nights. Undaunted, Tong Zio immerses herself in her work, staying late to sketch designs on a mannequin. As the office empties, Luing, working in his own office, notices a screen still illuminated. He investigates and finds Tong Zio's design, a dress that bears a striking and poignant resemblance to one his mother once wore. When Tong Zio approaches him, he coldly criticizes her work as very poorly made. Though she asks for constructive feedback, he merely moves close to her without uttering a word before walking away. The next day, however, he gives Manager Dolly a book on design theory with strict instructions to deliver it to Tong Zio and ensure she reads it. Dolly carries out the order, but Luing becomes angry when he returns alone, insisting Dolly must stay with Tong Zio until she has finished the book. After reading it, Tong Zio has an epiphany, admitting to Dolly that Luing was right and her designs were indeed childish. She asks Dolly to simply convey her thanks. Their conversation is cut short when Dolly sees a viral news post alleging a romantic relationship between Wen and Luing, complete with claims of secret nighttime meetings. Luing is furious at this invasion of his privacy and orders Dolly to have the post removed immediately. Wen, seizing the opportunity, suggests to Luing that since the rumor is already public, they should simply confirm they are a couple. Luing sees through her manipulation, accusing her of planting the story herself and firmly rebuffs her, stating their relationship is purely professional. He then unexpectedly instructs Dolly to assign Tong Zio the prestigious task of designing a dress for an upcoming major event. Overjoyed, Tong Zio dedicates herself to the project, working day and night to create her masterpiece. On the day of the competition, Luing watches the live stream from his office. Tong Zio's model is the first to present. However, the next competitor is Lu Yan, Luing's half-brother and a designer whom Tong Zio personally admires. When Lu Yan's model appears wearing a specific dress, Luing is visibly shaken. He abruptly stands up and leaves his office. Lu Yan wins the competition. Afterward, Tong Zio approaches him, smiling bravely despite her loss and telling him he is her inspiration. This peaceful moment shatters when Luing storms in and violently attacks Lu Yan, accusing him of having crossed the limit. A physical fight ensues, and as Tong Zio tries to intervene, she stumbles and nearly falls onto Luing. In the confusion, Lu Yan pulls her to safety, and a flustered Luing departs in anger. The next day, Luing confronts Tong Zio in his office, demanding to know if she understands why she received a score of 0 from all 5 judges. When she defends her loss by praising Lu Yan's superior skill, Luing's irritation peaks. And he orders Dolly to have her removed. As Dolly moves to comply, Luing reveals he knows her transfer documents were forged. In a surprising twist, instead of firing her, he offers her a new position, his personal assistant, dubbing her Olympics. In a parallel scene, Lu Yan presents his mother with a handmade bag, only for her to dismiss it as a useless distraction and urge him to focus on his father's business instead. Tong Zio's new role as Luing's assistant is laid out in a daunting file from Dolly, which details a meticulous schedule covering every aspect of Luing's life, from his waking moment to his meals. Tong Zio compares it to a prison sentence, but Dolly confidently predicts she won't last long. Tong Zio, ever defiant, accepts the challenge. Her first outing with Luing is a comedy of errors, culminating in her shirt getting caught in the car door, leaving her trapped and shouting for help while Luing walks away, muttering what a big idiot she is. Even Dolly abandons her, citing the locked car. The following day, while struggling to carry an armload of dresses, Tong Zio is saved from a fall by the timely intervention of Lu Yan. He smiles warmly, asking why she's burdened with so many tasks, and she explains it as her boss's orders. Later in the office, Tong Zio mutters to herself about her arrogant boss, unaware that Luing is behind her, overhearing the remark. When she gathers the courage to ask him for real design work, he throws her previous failure in her face. Yet he still gives her a designer book to study, a gesture that makes her think he might not be entirely bad. Lu Yan visits the office to see Tong Zio, learning from a staff member that she is now Luing's secretary. He gives her an envelope containing an invitation to an exclusive fashion event. Tong Zio is then swamped with mundane filing tasks, which she completes only for Luing to demand they be digitized by the next morning. She works through the night to meet the impossible deadline. The next day on a photoshoot set, when provoked by her friends who question why Tong Zio is always with Luing, decides to assert her dominance. She orders Tong Zio to fetch a pair of shoes from a distant mall. Tong Zio refuses, stating her duty is to Luing. Wen creates a scene, but Luing, preoccupied with the photographer, sides with Tong Zio. The stress, combined with her low blood pressure, causes Tong Zio to faint. Luing catches her and they tumble to the ground together. He revives her with a sugar cube. Later, as she opens the car door, he throws his coat at her and instructs her to pack up. He then orders a confused Dolly to buy candies, something he famously dislikes. Luing then texts Tong Zio, revealing that the coat he gave her contains a precious necklace and instructing her to take care of it. She finds the necklace, but while shaking the coat to hang it up, accidentally dislodges it. A frantic search of her belongings yields nothing. Dolly finds her in a panicked state, but she is too ashamed to explain and runs off. Her search takes her back to the set and to various jewelry shops, but the unique design is nowhere to be found. Dolly confirms the necklace's immense sentimental value to Luing, calling it like his life. In despair at her friend's restaurant, Tong Zio confides everything to her friend Ruru. Lu Yan overhears and, wanting to help, has an identical replica of the necklace crafted. Tong Zio presents the duplicate to Luing, claiming to have found it. He immediately knows it is a fake, as he had already discovered the original in the office where it had fallen. His anger is volcanic. He accuses her of making a mistake and then having the audacity to lie about it, and he fires her on the spot. That night, both are on the office rooftop, stewing in their anger. Tong Zio, having drunk some wine, mutters that it would have been better if Luing had listened to her. She then spots him and declares she will resign to end her suffering. He coldly informs her he has already fired her. She retorts that his success is solely due to his luck and gives him a light tap on the head. He vehemently denies this, insisting his position is the result of hard work. As she turns to leave, he, in a bizarre moment of frustration, grabs her leg and bites it. She pulls away and he stumbles, nearly falling over the edge. She rushes to save him, and in the ensuing struggle, their lips meet. This second kiss triggers another exchange, completely draining Luing's luck to 0 and elevating Tong Zio's to 100%. The next morning, a janitor discovers them asleep under a jacket on the rooftop and takes a photo that quickly goes viral. Dolly, seeing the photo, calls Luing, who is horrified to find Tong Zio beside him, and pushes her away. As office staff gather to witness the scandal, Tong Zio, in a brilliant, desperate act, pretends to be suicidal, climbing onto the ledge and declaring that no one can touch her except Mr. Luing. Understanding her ploy, Luing plays along, carrying her down while calling her crazy, successfully convincing the onlookers that a romance between them is unthinkable. Later, he asks if she remembers the previous night, and she lies, claiming she does not. Yan meets Tong Zio outside the office, offering her job leads at other companies, concerned for her well-being. She refuses, stating this company is her dream. Meanwhile, Luing, now plagued by his newfound bad luck, finds his car won't start and is unable to hail a taxi. Tong Zio, however, effortlessly gets one. Luing's phone also fails to work. He finds Tong Zio talking with Luyan and, reasserting his authority, demands she come with him, stating he never approved her resignation. When she holds his phone, it miraculously turns on. He then proceeds to give her an extensive, impromptu lesson on design, during which she finds herself captivated by him. She notes it's the first time she's seen him talk so much. At a subsequent event, Luing sends Tong Zio as his representative. She encounters Lu Yan, who is there as an invited celebrity. A man offers her a drink and, under the pretense of discussing business, leads her to a secluded restroom and begins to assault her. Her low blood sugar causes her to faint just as Luing arrives. He violently assaults the man, rescues Tong Zio, and revives her with candy. He instructs Dolly to care for her, but Dolly leaves her with Lu Yan, who takes her home. Tong Zio ends up driving because Lu Yan is drunk. When Dolly informs Luing that he left Tong Zio with Lu Yan, Luing becomes furious. Dolly then shows him a news article about a car accident from years ago, triggering a painful flashback for Luing where he, as a child, was in a crash with his mother. The memory brings tears to his eyes. Tong Zio, having seen the same article, rushes to find Luing, worried about his state of mind. In a tragic twist of fate, she accidentally hits him with her car. Luing is hospitalized with a head injury. Wen arrives, orchestrating a media spectacle by telling reporters she is there with his favorite chicken soup and answering personal questions about their relationship. Tong Zio intervenes, threatening to call the police to clear the area. She then apologizes to Wen and admits her responsibility for the accident. Wen dismissively tells her she can't afford the hospital bills and to stay away from Luing. In his hospital room, Tong Zio fusses over a grumpy Luing, who eventually orders her to leave. Outside, she meets Lu Yan, who also accepts some blame. Lu Yan visits Luing, offering his credit card to cover the medical bills. Luing, in a rage, throws the card and all of Lu Yan's gifts out of the room. Later, Tong Zio tries to feed him, but he rejects the food. After he is discharged, Tong Zio suggests his streak of bad injuries is due to their luck exchange. As if to prove her point, she almost falls into a pool. Luing saves her, but in the process, they spin around and he falls in, re-injuring his leg. The ordeal causes him to faint and he finds himself back in the hospital. During this second hospital stay, Tong Zio claims she's also injured and must stay, much to Luing's annoyance. During a visit, she receives a call from Lu Yan and steps out to take it. Lu Yan arrives, and when he tries to go to her room, she stops him by placing her hand on his cheek. Luing witnesses this from a distance and becomes jealous, throwing an apple at her. After more comical mishaps, like accidentally raising his hospital bed instead of lowering it, Tong Zio is discharged. She tells her friend Ruru everything, and Ruru jokingly suggests she just kiss Luing again to reverse the luck. Tong Zio laments that it's not that simple. She goes to Luing and explains the theory of their luck exchange stemming from their kiss. He dismisses her as delusional and throws her out of his room. As she continues to plead from the hallway, he pretends not to hear her. Suddenly, her voice falls silent. When Luing opens the door, he finds she has fainted from low blood sugar. A nurse rushes to help her. Later, Tong Zio is in Luing's room when her parents unexpectedly arrive, having heard from Ruru about the car accident. Her father mistakenly assumes Luing is her boyfriend. When he asks how long they have been dating, Luing, in a shocking and uncharacteristic move, looks directly at them and calmly replies, "For 3 years." The narrative continues to weave its intricate tapestry of love, ambition, and the whims of fate as the dynamic between Tong Zio and Luing evolves into something deeper and more complex. Following Luing's startling declaration to her parents that they have been dating for 3 years, he pulls a flustered Tong Zio closer and attempts to kiss her right in front of them. Tong Zio, utterly mortified, manages to push him away. To her surprise and further embarrassment, her parents find the entire situation amusing and burst into laughter. She quickly ushers them out of the room and then turns on Luing, demanding to know why he would fabricate such an elaborate lie. With characteristic bluntness, he places the blame squarely on her shoulders, stating, "You are responsible for my condition," referring to the string of misfortunes that have plagued him since their luck exchanged. Their tense moment is interrupted by the arrival of Wen, who appears with a cameraman in tow, hopping to stage a photograph with Luing to reignite dating rumors. Luing sees through her ploy immediately and issues a stern ultimatum. If she proceeds, he will fire her from the company. Shortly after, Dolly arrives with a message from Tong Zio, reminding Luing of an important interview scheduled with a figure named Luin the following day. From his hospital window, Luing spots Tong Zio walking past and calls her, petulantly asking why she hasn't brought his breakfast yet. She assures him she will be there shortly, but then receives a call from Lu Yan. He insists they need to meet to discuss the upcoming interview with Luin, a prospect that visibly delights Tong Zio. She immediately calls Luing back, fabricating an excuse about urgent company work, and leaves with Lu Yan. Luing watches them depart from his window, a pang of something akin to jealousy or hurt flashing across his face. Dolly and Tong Zio then proceed to Luin's house for the interview. They are met at the door by Luin's wife, who informs them he is not home. At that moment, Lu Yan appears and reveals that it was he who invited them. As he ushers them inside, Tong Zio makes the startling discovery that Lu Yan is, in fact, Luin's son. The interview proceeds, after which Luin's wife scolds her son for not informing her of the meeting in advance. Lu Yan apologizes, promising to be more transparent in the future. As they prepare to leave, Lu Yan offers to walk Tong Zio out. Dolly, ever the third wheel, tactfully opens his umbrella and announces he will wait in the car, leaving the two alone for a moment where they share a laugh at his expense. Tong Zio thanks Lu Yan for his help, but insists she can manage the short walk herself. In the car, Dolly voices his observation to Tong Zio, nodding that Lu Yan is caring for you a bit too much. Tong Zio dismisses this, claiming he is simply a kind person who cares for everyone. Back at the hospital, Tong Zio receives a stressful call from Miss Lin, a formidable figure in the company. She demands that a draft Luing sign be prepared and delivered to her by the next morning. Overwhelmed, Tong Zio confesses the impossible task to Luing and asks to borrow his laptop. He agrees, but only on the condition that she request him a lot, forcing her to swallow her pride and plead with him. He eventually relents, and Tong Zio works late into the night, eventually succumbing to exhaustion and falling asleep at her desk. Luing finds her, muttering about her job being in danger, yet he gently covers her with a blanket and takes the laptop, quietly completing the work for her. The next morning, Tong Zio is overjoyed and relieved to find the task finished. Realizing Luing is the culprit, she loudly and enthusiastically thanks him, startling him in the process. Emboldened, she asks him, "Can we kiss now?" He agrees, and as she leans in, he whispers teasingly in her ear, "I am leaving the hospital today, little pest." Flustered, she stammers that she will make the necessary arrangements, and he responds with a rare, genuine smile. Upon his discharge, Luing's car is swarmed by reporters outside his home. He orders his driver to leave immediately. Meanwhile, Tong Zio gets a summons from Miss Lin. Luing drops Tong Zio and Dolly off before dealing with the media circus. Dolly confides in Tong Zio that Luing was reluctant to leave the hospital because Miss Lin had been systematically tarnishing his reputation while playing the victim, in a parallel scene. Lu Yan's mother discovers a drawing he made of Tong Zio and becomes visibly angry. At the office, Tong Zio witnesses Miss Lin badmouthing Luing to the staff. She courageously interrupts, defending him and revealing the truth about Miss Lin's manipulations. Enraged, Miss Lin fires her on the spot. Later that night, Luing calls Tong Zio, claiming no restaurants are open and demanding her home address. To her utter shock, Luing arrives at her apartment and announces his intention to move in, revealing he has instructed Dolly to sell all his apartments and cars. Tong Zio is aghast, protesting, "You are a man and I am a woman, how can we live together?" Luing coldly assures her he has no romantic interest in her. When she argues that her parents would never allow it, he confidently retorts that they like him and will agree. As Tong Zio moves in to kiss him, hopping to reverse their luck, he blocks her with his hand and declares, "Even if you exchange the luck, I won't leave from here. Whatever happened is because of you, so you will have to pay for it." Tong Zio then tries another excuse, worrying about her roommate Ruru's reaction. As if on cue, Ruru arrives and, far from objecting, expresses her delight at having Luing there before announcing she is leaving on vacation, effectively leaving them alone. Luing promptly claims Tong Zio's room as his own. The next morning, he bangs on her door, complaining about her multiple alarms. She opens the door, listens to his rant, and closes it again. Later, as she prepares to leave for a new job interview, she hands him breakfast. When he asks which company she is considering and she names it, his expression darkens. She snatches the sandwich back from him and leaves, with him shouting after her to return it. At the new company, Tong Zio inquires about Lu Yan at the reception and is asked to wait. There she coincidentally meets an old high school acquaintance named Min. Lu Yan arrives and, to everyone's surprise, announces that Tong Zio will be the new chief designer. Min is visibly jealous, having worked there for years without such a promotion. Tong Zio privately confesses to Lu Yan that she feels unqualified, but he insists the decision is final and she must trust herself. Her insecurities are confirmed when she overhears Min gossiping, claiming Tong Zio used her looks to trap Lu Yan. Meanwhile, Luing, finding Tong Zio's apartment messy, takes it upon himself to clean it thoroughly. When Tong Zio returns, she's amazed to find the place spotless but becomes upset when she sees he has drawn on one of her paintings. He defends his actions, stating that since it is now his room, he found her painting scary and decided to make it cute. A frustrated Tong Zio calls Ruru to vent about her difficult day at the office and now at home. Luing overhears her complaining about being hungry and in a surprising gesture prepares instant noodles for her. Ruru, upon hearing this, declares it so romantic. As they sit down to eat, the doorbell rings. In a panic, Tong Zio hides Luing in a cupboard. Her parents have arrived for a surprise visit. Tong Zio invents a series of frantic lies, claiming Ruru now lives in her room and even throwing a teddy bear in the toilet to distract her mother. In the chaos, Luing manages to slip out and ring the doorbell again, making a grand, coincidental entrance. During the meal, Tong Zio's father praises Luing and mentions he heard Tong Zio joined a new company, adding that it's for the best since her previous boss was very rude and treated his daughter badly. Luing, with a pointed look at Tong Zio, says he wishes he had known so he could have talked to that boss. This prompts Tong Zio's father to launch into further criticism of the unnamed boss, all while Luing silently fumes. The next day, Luing is eating biscuits when Tong Zio snatches them away, revealing she made them for her colleagues. He immediately assumes they are for Lu Yan. She then asks when he plans to leave, concerned about his continued bad luck. She attempts to kiss him again, but he puts a toy in her face, questioning why, if her luck is so good, her colleagues are still bothering her. He also warns her that Lu Yan does not see her as just a friend, a comment that upsets her. At the office, Lu Yan's mother sees Tong Zio and is clearly displeased. She scolds Lu Yan for appointing Tong Zio as chief designer without her consent. He defends his decision, citing Tong Zio's talent, and his mother reluctantly agrees to give Tong Zio a probationary period to prove herself. When Tong Zio distributes her homemade biscuits, even Min admits they are delicious. Lu Yan's praise further stokes Min's jealousy. Later, Ruru returns from her trip and immediately interrogates Tong Zio about what happened with Luing in her absence. Tong Zio deflects her questions. The next day at the office, Lu Yan formally introduces Tong Zio and Wen. While cleaning, Tong Zio discovers an old photograph of Luing and Lu Yan together. When she questions Luing about it, he dismissively claims Lu Yan is just a fan, refusing to elaborate. Tong Zio and Ruru later meet with Wen, who agrees to tell them why Luing and Lu Yan fought, but only if they become her friends, as she is lonely. They create a chat group together. Back at the apartment, the doorbell rings. Tong Zio peeks out, sees it's Lu Yan, and hides this fact from Luing, claiming it was a prank caller. When the bell rings again, Luing goes to answer it, but Tong Zio stops him and opens the door herself. Lu Yan enters and is shocked to see Luing. He hands Tong Zio a file she forgot in his car. Luing's attention is caught by a locket around Lu Yan's neck. He demands it, but Lu Yan refuses, stating they made it together. A physical struggle ensues. Lu Yan, angry, asks Luing what he is doing there, accusing him of disturbing Tong Zio. In a fit of spite, Luing retorts, "Tong Zio wants to kiss me, and that's why whatever I say, Tong Zio is ready to do." Humiliated and hurt, Tong Zio slaps Luing and runs out. Lu Yan scolds Luing before leaving to find her. Luing is immediately consumed by guilt. Tong Zio retreats to her parents' house. The next day, Luing shows up there as well. Her parents dote on him, much to Tong Zio's annoyance. In private, she tells him she will not forgive him. He claims he only came to see her parents. When she asks if he just came for food, he criticizes the mashed potatoes. She reveals she made them and tells him he didn't have to eat them. At the office, Tong Zio sees Min flirting with Lu Yan. As she tries to slip past, Lu Yan says he needs to talk to her. Still upset, Tong Zio says she is not in the mood and leaves. That night, a drunk Tong Zio is dancing wildly in a club. Wen is also there, and a fight breaks out near them. Luing arrives, puts Tong Zio on his back, and carries her home. On the way, her drunken ramblings make him feel both sad and happy. The next day, he is watching the video of her drunk dancing when she walks in. He quickly turns off his phone, but she realizes he was watching her and tries to snatch it. He playfully blackmails her, threatening to make the video viral unless she makes him beef noodles. As she cooks, he records her. Their cooking session turns into a playful flower fight. In a moment of vulnerability, Tong Zio asks him if he remembers a cute little girl he met at a seminar 8 years ago, hinting that she was that girl. Luing teasingly calls her lazy, denying any resemblance. She reacts by sitting on him and covering his mouth, then leans in to kiss him. Surprised, he picks her up and places her on the sofa, asking, "Are you sure?" She closes her eyes, and he moves in to kiss her, but they are interrupted by Ruru's screaming return. Later, Luing stands outside Ruru's shop. He calls Tong Zio, who tells him to go inside and say his name as he is a VIP customer. When he does, the lights turn on and everyone brings out a birthday cake. Luing, who hasn't celebrated his birthday since his mother passed away, is deeply touched. Tong Zio tells him his mother would be happy to see him celebrate. He agrees and blows out the candles. When he asks for his gift, Tong Zio jokingly complains about the cost of the party, then playfully brings her face forward. Instead of kissing her, Luing pushes her face into the cake. They end up in a playful, messy food fight. Lu Yan happens to pass by, hears Tong Zio's laughter, and sees her close to Luing, a sight that clearly bothers him. New character Yan is introduced as Luing's ex-girlfriend who left him during a difficult time. She sends him a voice message demanding he call her immediately. As Tong Zio is cleaning cake from her hair, she informs Luing of the message. He deflects, telling her he will prove to her that he can become a great designer, and she responds by smearing cake on his face. Luing then confronts Miss Lin during an interview, announcing he is there to reclaim his position. A competition is set between them. Backstage, Tong Zio finds a calm Luing and asks if he isn't preparing. He confidently says he is ready and in a surprisingly tender gesture holds her cheek before leaving. Miss Lin then approaches Luing's model and bribes her to sabotage his show. Meanwhile, Yan confronts Luing about ignoring her voice message. He is cold, stating he doesn't change for anyone. Tong Zio arrives to warn Luing about Miss Lin's plot, but he just smiles, already aware. When it's Luing's turn to present, he brings out a doll covered in cloth. When unveiled, the doll has no dress. Luing explains that he is showcasing traditional Chinese dresses, which should only be worn by Chinese models to capture their unique cuteness. He masterfully argues that his designs were sabotaged to prevent him from becoming chief editor. Later, Yan calls Luing to her place. He tells Tong Zio he has a task and leaves. Yan manipulates him, suggesting that his cohabitation with Tong Zio could ruin her reputation and design career. Influenced by her words, Luing is later seen packing his belongings into a car with Yan. Tong Zio, holding his shirt, sees this and misunderstands, believing he is moving in with Yan. She is heartbroken. The next day, she confides in Wen, who is shocked, stating she has never known Luing to live with any woman. The scene then shifts to reveal Luing and Dolly in a new apartment. It is his own, not Yan's. Tong Zio had misunderstood. She visits him there and he asks how she found the place. He tells her he doesn't want to live with her and that she should focus on her career. She retorts that if he doesn't want to live with her, she doesn't want his luck either. When he dismisses the concept of luck, she kisses him, transferring all his luck back to him and reducing hers to zero. She apologizes and runs away, leaving him stunned. A remorseful Luing rushes out into the rain to find her, knowing her bad luck will prevent her from getting a bus. He finds the bus stop empty, assuming she has gone home. Tong Zio, however, falls ill with a high fever. Luing messages her about an urgent dress deadline. Despite being dizzy, she works on the dress and cuts her hand. Ruru begs her to rest and secretly messages Luing for help. He arrives, works on the dress, and hears Tong Zio talking in her sleep. He finds her burning with fever and tends to her, placing a wet cloth on her forehead. She mutters in her sleep about making him suffer for all the trouble he's caused. He eats a candy himself and tells her to rest before leaving. The next day, Tong Zio is amazed to find the dress completed. Lu Yan comments that he couldn't have made it so well. Ruru credits Tong Zio, who has no memory of finishing it. At the fashion show, Luing watches sadly as Tong Zio and Lu Yan arrive together. Suddenly, someone pushes Tong Zio and her dress tears. Luing rushes over, fixes the dress with new intricate designs, the very ones Tong Zio had seen that morning, confirming he was the one who completed it. Lu Yan apprehends the saboteur. It is Min. She confesses to ruining the dress out of jealousy. In the aftermath, Luing is seen talking with Yan. A drunk Tong Zio stumbles in and starts hitting him. Yan tells her to stay away, but Luing asks Yan to leave, saying he will handle it. Tong Zio also yells at Yan to go. Once alone, a vulnerable Tong Zio confesses, "I can't bear it anymore. I like you very much and I also miss you a lot," before fainting. Luing is shocked, then whispers to himself, "I also miss you a lot." On the day of a major award show, Dolly calls Tong Zio for help, fearing people will speak against Luing. Stuck in traffic, Tong Zio gets out and runs to the venue. There, a model showcases Luing's design to great acclaim. But Miss Lin publicly accuses him of plagiarizing an 8-year-old design by Professor Lu Ren's son. As Luing remains silent and people begin to leave, Yan takes the stage and reveals the truth. Luing is Professor Lu Ren's son. Lu Yan is stunned by this revelation. In the ensuing chaos, Luing is hidden away from reporters. Later at home, he fusses over a foot injury Tong Zio sustained while running to the show. When he moves to treat it, Lu Yan stops him, leading to a tense standoff that Tong Zio breaks up, urging them to talk. Lu Yan confronts Luing, demanding to know if Yan's revelation is true. Luing tells him to ask their father, which enrages Lu Yan, leading to a physical confrontation. Luing forcibly removes Lu Yan's hands from his collar and locks himself away, while Lu Yan vents his fury on the door. Yan later apologizes to Luing for her public revelation, claiming she did it to help him reach the top. She becomes emotional, wishing she had never left him after his accident and suggesting they rekindle their relationship. Lu Ying firmly rejects her, stating he lives in the present and they have no future. Meanwhile, Lu Yan consoles his crying mother, who admits she knew about his father's previous wife and son but believed he had left them behind. The next day, the company director tells Lu Ying he can have his position back if he wins an award. Lu Yan's mother then coerces Wen into taking the stage to slander Lu Ying, claiming he made advances toward her. However, Wen tears up the script, exposing the conspiracy and naming Lu Yan's mother as the mastermind. Miss Lin tries to intervene, further badmouthing Lu Ying, but he fires her on the spot. The director, impressed with Lu Ying's handling of the situation, promotes him to CEO. Lu Ying, in turn, appoints a thrilled Dolly as chief director. A despondent Wen, now jobless and blacklisted, is comforted by Tong Zio, who invites her to move in with them. Lu Ying, now smiling to himself about Tong Zio's drunken confession, waits for her outside her apartment and playfully scares her when she arrives. He asks her to leave her company and come work with him, then presses her to repeat what she said while drunk. She feigns ignorance and walks away. Later, Lu Ying is personally decorating a new office space for Tong Zio. Yan arrives, mistakenly thinking it is for her, but soon realizes the truth. She confronts him. "You have started to like Tong Zio." He corrects her, saying, "Not just like, I have started to love her." He then meets with Tong Zio and shares the exciting news that the dress designs he sent out have received positive responses and work proposals. Overjoyed, Tong Zio closes her eyes, expecting a kiss. Instead, Lu Ying laughs and pulls her into a warm, heartfelt embrace, bringing their tumultuous and magical journey to a happy and satisfying conclusion.